Hi, I'm Denny Carleton, and I'm here to teach you the guitar. This guitar method that I'm going to show you how to do is primarily a guitar method to help you to learn how to play guitar chords. And the way that I teach is one chord at a time in the most simplest way that will bring you to being able to strum and to learn your basic guitar chords in many different keys and different styles. When I first started taking lessons years ago, the way that the guitar was taught almost all the time is you would learn one note at a time from standard sheet music. And standard sheet music, what they do with standard sheet music is they'll introduce a whole note, then they will have maybe a half note, a quarter note, and an eighth note. And a little bit at a time, they'll show you how to play notes. And one note will be introduced at a time. And maybe this is your E note, this is your F, this is your G. I'm not trying to, you don't have to actually learn this. I'm just trying to explain how guitar used to be taught exclusively. This is how it used to be taught. So you'd learn one note at a time with a whole note and a quarter note, and then you'd learn a song such as Mary Had a Little Lamb, or When the Saints Go Marching In, or some standard song that's been around for a long time. And you'd learn how to play a melody of a song, the part that you can whistle, the part that you can sing to. It became apparent to me pretty quickly that when I was young, that's really not how contemporary folk music or blues or country or rock and roll was played. Really, when you see a band playing or someone playing a guitar, they're playing guitar chords and they're singing that melody. And then around these guitar chords, a guitar player knows how to put in little ad-libs and little ad-libs in between the guitar chords. So what I'm trying to say is, learning to read the notes is a very good thing. And I think it's a good thing to know how to do that. But this particular course does not teach you how to read the notes. What this course is going to do is teach you how to play guitar chords. So the first thing that we're going to have to learn is how to read guitar chord charts. Standard sheet music that you're going to look at is going to have a treble clef and sometimes a bass clef. And on that treble clef, they're going to have they're going to have the notes. You're not really going to pay attention to the notes too much to play the rhythm guitar. You're going to look at the chord chart on the top. It's a C, it's a G, it's an E minor, it's an A minor, and you're going to learn to strum those chords. So that's what we're going to do now. After that introduction, the first thing we're going to do here is to learn how to play the guitar chords. Now, one of the things that I've learned about teaching is I used to teach adult education courses in different area schools, and I would see people bring in the regular guitar chords, a C or a G, a regular chord that most people would play, and they would then also be taught very complicated strums. So they would come in and they'd say, "Oh, I just took lessons from this other teacher and I want you to teach me now." So they would be like this, playing these complicated chords, not complicated, but full chords, and strumming in many different patterns. When I used to teach these groups of people together, I said, I cannot have everybody strumming different patterns at different levels and be able to make any kind of music here. What I have to do is make this simpler. So what I did for my beginning students especially, and also my older students at the beginning, was I made, instead of a C chord like this, I made a very, very simple C chord. As I said before, a chord is 3 notes in harmony. So a C chord is this. But the beginning C that you're going to learn, which I learned when I first started taking guitar lessons a long time ago, they used to teach in this way, is this. This could be the simplest method you ever saw as far as learning the guitar. This is a C chord. A C, E, and G is a C chord. What this part of the C chord is if you play one hand on the piano, you could play C, E, and G, and that would be a C chord. If you play 2 hands on the piano, and you have C, E, G on your left hand and C, E, G on your right hand, you still have a C chord, because a C chord is a C, E, and a G note. So when you play the C chord, this is the first one I want you to do. The reason I want you to do it so simple is I want to be able to establish some simple beats and be able for you to strum songs as fast as possible. So a C chord is your first finger on the first fret on the second string, like this. Now just go to that chord, and we're going to strum those in a beat. Now there's different types of beats. We're going to strum these as quarter notes. Quarter notes sound like this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now eventually, within a week or 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be playing the whole C chord. So don't worry if you already know the C, or your friends play the regular C. We're going to get to that very quickly. But I want you to start off real simple. So this is your C chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. C chord is first finger, first fret, second string. Now we're going to go to the G chord. We'll review these too. This is your third finger on the third fret on the first string. That's the G. So I'd like you to do is strum the C chord 8 times, the G chord 8 times, and then the C chord 8 times. Here's the C. There's the G. As I said, we're going to get to the bigger chords eventually. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the G. Back to the C. Now you should have, in a couple weeks or even now, be able to keep up with that. And if you can't, it's not important. Just get those chords, and you'll learn more chords than you think you're going to with this simple beginning. We're going to start getting into a lot of guitar chords here. The last chords you just learned was a C and a G. And I'm hoping that you remember how to read the chord chart from what I showed you before, and also look into your pamphlet, the little booklet that's with the book, to read this next chord chart. This is an E minor. This is what an E minor looks like. One thing that I think is important is do not play the E minor. Your second and third finger will be on the fourth and fifth string. And do not play the E minor like this or like this. I want you to play it with the second and third. And I want you to strum the E minor like this, straight down 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the E minor guitar chord. Now I've taught for a long time, and people usually can handle this E minor, and I always feel it's a good progress, because now you have an E minor. That's a regular guitar chord. People have been used for years and years on the guitar. What I want you to do now with that E minor, and one of the advantages of having this DVD is that you can go back and watch that again. But you have to learn each thing that I show you in order to get to the next step. So if you have a problem, just go back to this lesson and make sure you conquer the E minor. We're going to go to the E minor guitar chord, and we want you to take the E minor chord and move it from the fourth and fifth string to the third and fourth string, which is right there. And remember the C from the first lesson, the small C? We're going to add that, and that's called an A minor. So we want to play the A minor a few times. Let's do it 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to go back, start on the E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Switch from the E minor to, move those from the next strings to the third and fourth string, add your little C chord to the A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go back to the E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The E minor and the A minor, now that you have a C, a G, an E minor and A minor, we need one more chord, and we're going to be able to start playing some songs. Because when you play the chords in what's called a key, you need basic chords to get the rhythm patterns and the chord patterns that we're used to hearing in music. You need a certain pattern of these. So with E minor and C and G, we're getting close to being there. So we're going to go on to some new chords right after this. Before we go on any farther, I have to show you a few basic things about notes. Now, every note that you see in music, it lasts a certain amount of time. This particular note is a flashcard of a note, and it's called a whole note. And that will be held out for 4 times. So let me put the card down, and I'll show you that a whole note would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you see the whole note, or if I say whole note, I want you to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you were reading regular sheet music, what would happen is that wherever that note was located on the musical staff, you would play that note. You would see an E and you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, or an F, 1, 2, 3, 4. But for our purposes, all we want you to know is to know how long you should hold the chord out, because we're just showing you guitar chords in this course. The next note is a half note. A half note should last for 2 beats. That's self-explanatory in a way. That just goes 1, 2, 1, 2. I want to give you different strums. This is standard in music too. If you go to get a guitar book, a lot of times guitar books will give you, before your guitar lessons, a rhythm figure. It'll give you something how they want you to strum the songs. So this is a half note. That goes for 2 beats. The next one we're going to do is a quarter note. And the quarter note is like this. And the quarter note gets 1 beat. So that, if I said strum your C and G, like we did before, 4 times in quarter notes, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are quarter note strums. The next one that is very important to know and is your eighth note. And an eighth note is 1/2 of a quarter note. And that's kind of quick. That would be, if I said do an eighth note strum, would be real quick. If I said to do 2 eighth note strums, when you put 2 eighth notes together, they're together like that with a little bar. So that would be, if I say down up on eighth notes, it would be. So what I want you to do is I'm going to show you now in the next lesson how to make a little strum with what I showed you. So in summary, you've got a whole note, 1, 2, 3, 4. The half note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your quarter note, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we're actually going to use are 2 eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now let's go, and I'm going to start using a little bit of rhythms with some of your chords. I'm assuming that each lesson we do, you're learning the lesson that we did before the lesson that we're doing now. So if you have any problem with getting the guitar chords, go back to the beginning chords. That's why I always tell my students, if you have a problem, go back to the beginning. Go back to the chord charts. If you don't understand the chord charts, go back to the original lesson that explained that. So what I'm going to show you now is an E minor chord, which we did on the last lesson or a couple lessons ago. And I'm going to show you a strum. What I want you to do is pluck your lowest string, which is your low E, as a quarter note, which would be 1. And then I want you to take that E minor chord and just go down, up, down, up, down, up in eighth notes, which we learned on the last lesson. So that strum is going to go like this. So you're going to pluck your low E note, your lowest string, thickest string, and then you're going to go down, up on the E minor. And this is your root note. So you're going to go. Let's do that 4 times. And in a previous lesson, we learned the A minor chord. We'll go to the A minor chord now, and we're going to pluck the 5th string and do the same strum. So it's going to sound like this. Then go back to the E minor. In review, we're going to pluck the low note as a quarter note, which is 1, and then we're going to do a set of strums, which is 3 eighth notes. Down, up, down, up, down, up. So it goes like this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, Okay, so putting that together, we're going to go the E minor pattern twice, then we're going to go to the A minor pattern once, and back to the E minor. So we'll do that nice and slow. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down, up. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down, up. Switch to your A minor chord, hit your 5th string, pluck, down, up, down, up, down, up. Back to the E minor. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down. The way you count those 8th notes, very standard with musicians. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's how you count 8th notes. A way to just think of 8th notes, quarter notes go 1, 2, 3, 4. Those sort of like the heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. When you hear the what's called the hi-hat, those are 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the beat may be going 1, 2, 3, 4. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's going, the snare is, the hi-hat's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that's how you count 8th notes. So one more time. The E minor chord. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down, up. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down, up. Switch to the A minor. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now go back to the E minor. Pluck, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, I hope you got that. So far in these lessons, what I've tried to do is sort of lay a foundation. You know what a quarter note is, you know what a whole note is, you know what an 8th note is. You kind of know how to pluck the note. You pluck the low strings. You know the basic idea of how I'm teaching. What I'm going to do in these next few lessons is just try to show you a lot of guitar chords, because hopefully by now you know how to read a guitar chord chart. I'm going to try to show you as many chords as possible, and this is this part of the lesson. First, I want you to go to your E minor chord, which we learned already. Let's strum that down 4 times. 1 as quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's switch to the A minor chord, which we should know by now. 1, 2, 3, 4. The new chord that you're learning here is D7. And we're going to go and take your 3rd and 2nd finger and put that on the 2nd fret on the 1st and 3rd. And instead of always explaining it, you can just look at it. That's the D7. So we're going to go E minor, which you know, to the A minor, to the D7. Okay? Now let's strum all those down 4 times as quarter notes. And remember your G? We're going to end on the G. So it goes E minor, A minor, D7, and G. And that'll be the lesson. D7 is real important in these keys for you to play a song. 1, 2, here it goes, I'm sorry. Here we go. 1, 2, get your E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the A minor. To the D7. To the G. It's very important to play that E minor with the 2nd and 3rd finger, then go to the A minor with the same fingering and the D7. And now you've got a G, a C, an E minor, an A minor, and a D7. Okay, bringing up some of the things we've learned together onto this lesson, we're gonna combine the chords that you've learned. You've learned a G, you learned an E minor, you learned a small C, and you learned a D7. So what we want to do is we want to play one of those songs that sort of sounds like the 1950s songs. These chords are the basic chords in the key of G. And so a key is kind of how you would describe when you hear a musician call a key. A key is kind of the home or the tone center or what you go back to. A lot of songs, if it's in the key of G, will start on a G, go through a couple chords, and it'll come back to the G. That's kind of a key. That's kind of the basis of where you're starting from. So this song is in the key of G. We're going to start with a small G chord, strum 4 times.